Happy Hookers! This is Delight from www.denverwhimsycrochet.com, and today I'm going to show you how to measure your gauge when you're making a beanie or an amigurumi project. So the reason why this is really important is because you want to make sure that your project is going to be the right size, especially if it's a beanie, because somebody's going to wear it and it needs to fit them. So you're going to need to make a gauge swatch first, and then measure it to make sure you're on the right track, and fix it if you're not before you continue and you end up with something that's the wrong size. So this video is meant to go along with one of the patterns that I have written. So if you don't have one of those in front of you, I'm assuming that you're going to know how to make the gauge swatch. The instructions are in the pattern. If you don't have this, head on over to denverwhimsycrochet.com. and you can get any of the patterns I've written there. Also, I always have something up for free there, so go get yourself a free pattern and then come back to watch how to measure your gauge. So the gauge swatches I've made are the first 5 rows of a beanie. And I have 2 different ones here. I'll explain the difference in a second. But the awesome part about this is that if I do my gauge swatch, I measure it and it is the right size, I can just keep going and make my beanie. And I cannot take credit for this fantastic idea. It actually came from a class I watched on craftsy.com about crochet. And I thought, I got to put that in my patterns because it's just so handy and so awesome. So just want to throw a little plug in there for craftsy.com because I love their crochet classes and they have taught me so much. So head on over there and check those out too. All right, so let's talk about these 2 different gauge swatches I have here. This yellow one, Mr. Yellow Man here, this is made in continuous rounds, which is called crocheting in the round. It's actually kind of like a spiral. See how it starts here in the middle, and then it spirals out like a snail shell or something. So you're going to see instructions in a pattern for this type of project. Where there are 2 measurements because it has a wide part here and a narrow part here because it's not even because you're going in continuous spirals. Whereas some of the patterns I write are not crocheted in the round, they are crocheted in joined rounds, which means each one is like a row. And there's this little teensy seam right here, which if you do it right, you can barely see. And this one's only going to have 1 measurement because it is more of a perfect circle or hexagon actually. It's all the same on every side, so you only need to measure it 1 direction. So that's why I'm going to show you these 2 different ones because I have patterns that are created with these 2 different techniques. So now let's talk about how to measure it. Let's start with the yellow guy. So what I'm going for here is at the widest part, the pattern says it should be 3 1/4 inches. And the widest part is here where I finished off this is the last stitch of the 5th row. And so I'm about to start row 6 right here, and this is my widest part. So I'm going to line up my ruler with the outermost edge of the swatch, and then it's going to go right through the middle, and then it's going to go to the outermost edge of my last stitch here in kind of a straight line. So you can see this is just what I was hoping for. It is 3 1/4 inches at the widest part, and now the pattern says at the narrowest part it's going to be 3 1/8. Which is not a whole lot different, but it's important if you want your stuff to be the right size. All right, so here is the narrowest part. And again, I'm making sure I go through the middle because if I go like some crazy angle, it's not going to be right. So I'm going through the middle. I'm going from the 2 outermost loops, and I get to 3 1/8 right there. So this one is just the size that I wanted it to be. Sweet. Let's check on this guy. So again, I crocheted this one in joined rounds, so there's only 1 measurement to take. And what I'm going for here, this one's actually a little bit bigger than the yellow one. Just the way that it's crocheted is different. And what it's going to be is 3 3/8 inches across. So I can measure it kind of anywhere I want because there's not a narrow and a wide part again on this one. So I'm going to line it up with the 2 outermost loops. And sweet, I am also right on here. So it's 3 1/4, 3 1/8, and just short of 3 1/2. Sweet. So with both of these, if I was making a beanie or something, I would just start again. I got it perfect. So I would grab whatever hook I used to make this. I would start again on round 6 and keep following the directions to make the beanie. But let's talk about what would happen if they were not the right size. So this guy was supposed to be 3 3/8. So what if you make this, it's 5 rounds, and you use this hook, which is what I suggest. This is what I use. And you use this hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter, or letter I, and it ends up being bigger. Let's say maybe it's 3 1/2 inches across instead of 3 3/8 inches. So what are you going to do? You don't want to keep going if it's too big because your hat's going to be too big. It's not going to fit. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose a smaller size of crochet hook. And what I usually do is I'll skip. So I have, they're alphabetically here. I have an I hook, and then 1 size smaller is an H, and then 2 sizes smaller is a G. And so what I'll usually do is I'll blech, marbles in my mouth. I will try it again with a G hook, which is 2 sizes smaller, because I find that if I just do 1 size down, a lot of times I don't know why, it's weird, but the gauge swatch actually turns out the same size with 2 different hooks that are just 1 size apart. So anyway, so if it's too big, switch to a hook that is 2 sizes smaller. Now, if your swatch is too small, so again, it's supposed to be 3 3/8. Let's say that it is just 3 1/4. So it's like way too small. Then you need to use a hook that's bigger. So again, here I've got a J and a K. So you can try to skip 2, or you can try just the next one up. And it's a little bit of trial and error, unfortunately. You just need to have a few different crochet hooks on hand so you can figure out which one is going to work. And make sure that you do this before you start your beanie, because again, you want it, especially if it's a beanie, you want to make sure it's going to be the right size. So I really hope this video has helped you to figure out how to measure gauge swatches and make sure that your pattern is going and your project are going to be the right size. If you like this video, tell me about it and leave me a comment below. If you have a question, also leave me a comment below. And if you would like to get some free and discounted patterns that use these techniques I've just described, then you can head on over to denverwhimsycrochet.com and sign up for my newsletter, because I give free stuff away all the time. So go grab yourself some freebies, and I'll see you back here next time. Happy hooking!